if I just have everybody, I close off the YouTube right away. I mean, it takes
Got
a
it.
few minutes to set up again.
Sure.
Otherwise, yesterday.
All right. Well, I'll share my screen so it's ready.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody, returning to the Kindness at Work conference, and thank you for coming back and tuning in. My guest now is Andrew Hood, who is going to be talking about resilience, and he has a fantastic story in a book which you must buy and read. So thank you, Andrew, for joining us all the way from Sydney, and take it away.
Thank you, Marilyn. Hello, everybody. I'm so happy to be here with you today. Really appreciate it, your time. I'm going to talk today about the topic of resilience. And it's a topic that's very important to me, not only because I've had some tough times in my own life, but also because, like the last presenter, I'm an anxiety sufferer. So I deal with resilience every day, even, going about my daily work requires resilience. And so there's a lot of things, that resilience really plays a big part in my life. So let me be upfront. I'm going to present to you. I'll tell you a little bit about my life, and then I'm going to tell you a story about my life. I don't have a program that I'm trying to sell. I am an author, but I'm effectively giving away one of my books for free anyway. So, you're probably asking, why am I doing this? Well, I'm doing it for a few reasons. So Marilyn was very kind to me when I first launched my book, and she had me on her podcast. So really pleased to be invited back here to present to you guys and be part of this. But I'm sharing this story, and I've shared it a couple of times, not because this story is so different, but because this story is so common, right? And when it comes to resilience, I think half of the thing of being resilient is knowing that you're not alone in this world, knowing that others have faced the same challenges that you've faced and survived, and with the right sort of mindset about how to go about that, not only will you survive, but you'll become bigger and stronger in the process. So that's why I share this story. But first, why don't I give you a little background on me and my family? So there we go. That's me, Andrew Hood. I'm in the back here. I have my lovely wife, Elizabeth, next to me. And in front of us, I have our 3 children, my eldest son, Linton, my other son, Harrison, and Rose there. And we are on top of the world there. We're on top of Sydney Harbour Bridge in Sydney. So that was, I think it was March 2020. So, last year, we were just starting to see the start of the pandemic, and Sydney was in lockdown. Well, we were locking down to other states and things like that. And we wanted to get out and see our own city. We wanted to become tourists in our city. So we went and climbed the Sydney Harbour Bridge, which was a lot of fun. It was a great day there. That's my reason for getting up every day is my beautiful family, and I love them all. They're all sleeping somewhere in this house right now because it's early here in Australia. But I'm a few things as well. So I'm a 25-year veteran of the IT industry. I currently work for Dell in Australia and New Zealand. I'm a senior sales manager for Dell. I'll talk a little bit about that. And I'm a writer and an author as well. So big parts of my life are these. But what I'm going to do today is I'm going to share a story with you. And to do that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. And I'll come back to the slides in a little bit. But I am going to tell you a story. So bear with me for 1 second. Okay. So this is going to be a bit uncomfortable for me to share this story, right? But I know that I'm happy to do it because I know that anything that I've done in my life that has been amazing or has been really satisfying, I know it's come from moments of pure panic, right? So I'm happy to share this story because it's a moment of pure panic, and it's all of the wonderful things that have come after those moments of pure panic. So I'm going to share it with you now. And when I said before that that was a picture of me and my family, and that we were, standing on top of the world, we weren't always that way, or I certainly wasn't always that way. So if I rewind back about 15 years ago, I was a junior sales rep, and I was earning really good money for my company. I was being mentored by one of the best sales reps in the business. Me and my wife had our first baby son, Linton, who you saw on that previous slide, the oldest one there. So we had our first son. We bought a small house and that house was rapidly going up in value because of the Australian property market has been doing that, or was doing that at that stage anyway. And that property market was booming. So in a market that's booming, everybody seems to think they're an expert, right? If your house is going up in value, you think you're an expert, and everybody in Australia was thinking they're experts about property and all of this sort of stuff. And I was so confident in my own future that I let a friend talk me into doing a property development with him. And we were going to buy a block of land and build 3 units on that land. So we had this, we thought it was, it was a license to print money as far as we were concerned. The property market was booming so quickly in Australia, and we would be in and out in a couple of years, have this thing done, sell these 3 properties, so earning good money. And to top it all off, like to make it even better, I was actually promoted, right? So I got to leave Sydney, go down to Melbourne and work alongside that mentor that I'd been talking about in one of Australia's largest accounts. So everything in my life at that time was going really, really well. Like it was a great time. And there were some cracks, there were some cracks in my mental health. I've always been highly strung. I've always been a bit of an anxiety sufferer. But when life is good, it's really easy to overlook that stuff, right? You don't see it as a problem when your life is good. It's only when things start to turn that those problems become bigger, right? So it was a wild ride for about 6 months. And then things started to change for me. That territory that I'd gone down to Melbourne for my promotion started to dry up. And we went from getting, revenues of $14 million every quarter of the year to less than 300,000. We had a big team on that account. So, that territory could not support that big team anymore. So we had to look at, well, what will I do? So we had to change the territory that I worked in. So I was given another territory, which was the accounts that nobody wanted. And there was a good reason that they were accounts that nobody wanted. I remember these were customers that hated us, like that, some of them. I remember one customer only agreed to take the meeting with me so they could tell me to my face how much they hated our company. So that's the sort of thing that I started to deal with. And I've been on a pretty good run, right? So I hadn't sort of faced this sort of, I haven't faced that sort of competitive nature or been challenged like that before. On top of that, the global financial crisis hit. And we started having serious financial problems with that investment property. So all of a sudden, we went from having money coming in and being excited and lots of things happening to a point where the bank started to make demanding phone calls to me and say things like, you need to have $3,000 in your account by Thursday, or you need to have $5,000 in your account by Sunday. And I was just getting these constant calls, and I had little bits of money and I could pull things and pull levers, but this went on for 6 months, and I was getting these calls all the time. And the bank kept saying, we need more money, we need more money. And, it was getting quite stressful. I was isolated because I was in a different state to where my family were. I had a failing income, my commission and my sales weren't coming in. I was deep in debt. We had a 2-year-old son, and my wife gets pregnant again. Now, our first child had been difficult to conceive and to have. We had a few false starts. We'd had a little bit of a cancer scare, which luckily went away quite quickly, but it was still very scary for us. So when my wife got pregnant, I didn't I didn't tell her any of it. I didn't tell her any of the money problems. In fact, I told nobody any of it. I kept it to myself. And I can tell you, during that time, I went to work every day and I smiled at everybody, just like we smile at each other on these calls, or when we see each other in the street. I smiled at family. Every person I knew, or every person I met, thought I was happy, and everything was going really well. But I can tell you, over that 6 to 12 months, things just went from bad to worse. My anxiety turned into a deep, dark depression. I wasn't sleeping well. I couldn't relax. And I think generally I was falling apart, but I had this great front, right? I could smile at people, I could have a joke, but nobody sort of knew what was really going on behind all of that. And I think that's where, I started to sort of fall apart. And there's a saying, I used to think that my secrets are what defined me. My ability to hold it all together was my strength. And then I met a counselor once who said to me that I completely got that wrong. She said, "No, Andrew, you're only as sick as your secrets." I never forgot that saying. You're only as sick as your secrets. And given I had so many secrets in my life back then, I was pretty sick. Mentally, mental health sick. But I was lucky. My wife is a very smart woman, so she could tell something was wrong with me, and as I got increasingly, as I got increasingly worse, I think she could see that something was getting worse with me, and she got really concerned about me. And one day she called my father, and she said that she was worried about me, that she was really worried about me. And it's probably one of the hardest moments of my life, but it's probably the moment that my life turned around, because she'd had a phone call with me in the car. I was driving home from work. She got off that call and she'd called my father. And Dad called me in the car. And you know what? I love my dad, but I probably would never have told him that what was going on. And that's for a few different reasons, right? I didn't want my dad to know that I needed help, right? He was me. I'm supposed to be a man now. I was in my 30s. I'm supposed to have it together. I'm supposed to not need help. I've got a family. I've got a young son. I wanted to prove to him, and I wanted to prove to the world that I've got it together. I know what I'm doing. But and Dad rang me and he said, "Tell me what's going on." And I told him the situation. I pulled over the car because I was just crying by that time, because it was quite traumatic for me to just finally just give it all up to somebody. And I still remember my father saying to me, and he said, "You don't understand, Hoodie," right? And that's what my family call me, is Andrew Hood. So they call me Hoodie, and I've always been called that. "You don't understand, Hoodie. Hearing the words, 'Dad, I need help,' is one of the nicest things that a parent could ever hear." That's stuck in my head. And that day, I tell you, within one day of having that conversation, you've got to remember 6 to 8 months of pain in my life. But within one day of having that conversation, I had enough money in my bank account to keep the bank off my back for another month. I had meetings scheduled with my accountant to restructure all my finances. I ended up seeing a therapist who helped me greatly over the coming months. And we finally sold all of those units, and I didn't have the bank on my back anymore. So within, one phone call, but I just was hesitant to make that phone call. I didn't want that. I didn't want to be known for that, right? So, but coming out of that present pain every day, really gave me a new headspace, right? It gave me a headspace to get into the things that I enjoyed doing, right? I learned that I like to write. So I started a blog, and that blog was called The Weekly Tipping Point. And that blog, one day in it, I wrote about anxiety. I'd never told anybody about my battle with anxiety before, but in one blog article, I wrote about anxiety. And because of that, and because of the huge response I got to that, that blog was awarded number 39 in the most inspiring blogs worldwide in a list at the time. So got a lot of attention. And it also taught me that I can write about emotional things, quite well, because I've experienced those emotional things. And I also learned that writing 50 blog posts was the equivalent of writing a book. So I sort of thought, well, I'm going to write a book one day, and a little bit of time went by and I wanted to learn about leadership, and I couldn't quite find the book that I wanted on leadership. So what I did was I wrote that book. It's called Legacy Leadership. I'll provide that book for free for anybody that would like to get it. You can go and download it for the next 5 days. It's available on Amazon for free. But it also taught me new lessons, right? I learned about leadership, which is wonderful. But I learned that writing business books was not really my thing. I wanted to use that ability to write about those dark sort of times and how to come through them. So I wrote a novel. I took all of that fear, anxiety, doubt, and I poured it all into my characters. That book was called The Man Who Corrupted Heaven. And people really liked that book. So I actually had a publisher I signed a 3-book contract on the back of that book with a publisher. So I'm getting to do more now of the things that I really love to do, right? So I still have my job. I love my job working for Dell, but I'm now publishing books as well, right? So in the last 6 months, I've sold over 2,000 copies of that book into the US and UK, and I'm here in Australia. I'm selling more copies around the world than I'm selling here locally, but that's okay. I love that, it's all part of the process, and it's not about the money. It's about that book and its ability to help people. So now, instead of waking up every day to demands from a bank saying you need to have money in your account by next week, I wake up to messages from readers, right? I wake up to messages for people tell me that my book is now one of their favorite books of all time, or that it's helped them in some way. Or I've had 3 film directors now read that book to see if it can be made into a movie. So lots of things happening. The sequel for that first book is out in February. So that's exciting for me to have book number 2, and book number 3 is already written, and that'll be out late next year. So all of these great things, but all of these struggles that I had back then, they all helped me to be who I am today, because when I finally spoke to someone and I finally accepted this help, is when everything turned around. And there's a line in one of my books, and I don't want to be the guy that quotes himself, but there was a line that really helped people. And one of them told me this line. I didn't even remember writing it, but the line is, sometimes life's struggle is its reward. And I tell you, we all have struggles, but we all have rewards as well. And I think if you learn how to use those struggles and you learn how to grow from them, the rewards become even bigger. And we just need to accept a little bit of help in our lives from time to time. But what's this all got to do with resiliency, right? Resiliency isn't about how tough you are. I learned that. It's about knowing when you need to ask for help. It's about taking the hits and becoming stronger from those hits. It's about having courage in your own ability to survive whatever it is you're going through, right? Whatever it is you're going to go through, you're going to get through it, right? I think one of my favorite sayings is, when you're going through hell, keep going. You don't want to get stuck there, right? So it's really important that you just sort of take the hit, but no, you know what? It's not always going to be this bad. Things are going to get better. So I'm going to go back to my slides for a second. I've just got only 3 or 4 slides, but there's a couple I want to show you. Okay. And this is why I share my story, right? One day you will tell your story of how you overcame something you went through, and it would be someone else's survival guide. I love this saying from Brene. And really, that's why I share this story, because I know that there may be some out there that, are struggling, and, that this story is not, my story is not all so different. Everybody has these sort of challenges, and maybe my story is so similar, which is why it's valuable and it'll help you. again, this is my saying that I just talked about. If you're going through hell, keep going. You don't want to be stuck there. And I love this. I don't know if anybody's out there and they know who came up with this. I tried to Google it, and everybody seems to have taken, everybody posts this, but nobody actually says who started this saying. Well, one life, just one. Why aren't we running like fire towards our wildest dreams? And, when I started writing, I really enjoyed that process. So for me, this is, I like to look at this and I like to remind myself, am I running towards, am I running like I'm on fire towards my wildest dream today? And I have to think about that. But getting to resilience, psychology, I came across this on Wikipedia. Psychological resilience is the ability to mentally or emotionally cope with a crisis or return to a pre-crisis status quickly. I don't think I really agree with this saying, because if I had returned to the Andrew Hood before all of that trouble, I would be half the Andrew Hood I am today, right? So I don't think it's about returning to pre-crisis. I think it's returning or coming to a post-crisis enhanced. I want to be the bigger person on the other side of the crisis. I don't want to go back to the person I was before the crisis. So I think when I think about resilience, this is the only part that me and Wikipedia maybe don't agree, but I think it's certainly worth knowing. It's not about returning to who you are. It's about returning to who you're going to be. As I said before, this is a book I wrote called Legacy Leadership. It's going to be available for the next 5 days on Amazon for free. You can go in there, download it. You either search for the title or you can type in this number here. There's no strings attached. If you like that book, I hope you enjoy it and you get something out of it. Literally, as I said, I went looking for the book that I wanted to use to learn about leadership, and I couldn't find it. So what I did is I thought about, who's the list of top 10 leaders of all time. I got those leaders: Martin Luther King, Napoleon, Mandela, Churchill, Catherine the Great, all of these leaders, these amazing leaders. And I really wanted to know who they were, what was their background, what did they accomplish in their time, what was their leadership style, and what made them so effective. Because I wanted to know, how do I actually take what those great leaders did so well and apply it to my everyday? So it was really about, it's literally 10 pages on each leader around these things. And it really is, how do I take all of that knowledge and learn from them and apply that to my daily, my daily leadership sort of skills, I guess. So that book's there, no strings attached. Go and enjoy it. And if you do get something out of it, I'd love to, let me know. That'd be wonderful. I love to hear from readers. I really do. This is the book I spoke about before, The Man Who Corrupted Heaven. It's my first novel. I have released a few self-published novels, but this is the one that I'm especially proud of. It's doing very well. It's the first of 3 books. The second will be out in March. So this is something I'm really proud of. If you like the other book, or if you're a reader of fiction and want to go and check that one out, you'll be able to find that on Amazon and where good books are sold. And if you'd like to follow me on social media, I'm really only very good on Facebook. I have my Instagram, and I have a lot of followers on Twitter, but I don't know what to say to them. So I'm still working Twitter out, but Facebook is where I like to engage with people that follow me and follow my writing. So, it's, I'd love to have you come and join me on there if you'd like to. But that's where I'm done. So I'm happy to take any questions. I'm happy to, answer any questions if anybody has any. I'm a little early, Marilyn. I hope I haven't finished too soon.
Mute myself. No, a little early, but that's okay. So I was just thinking, can you possibly put that code in the chat room and for that book?
Yes, this one here.
Yeah, I tried copying it, but
yeah, let me do that.
Too dark.
The B0798QN4Z1, is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah,
That's the
so
one,
but
yeah.
I tried to copy it and I just got a
But he
dark.
said that we could just look it up by the name of the book.
I know he said
You
Carol,
can,
but for other
but
people who would
I'll
like
put
to
it in
get
as
it.
well. I'll put it in.
Sounds good. And your fiction, I like fiction. I think
Oh,
I'll
good.
try to get that one too.
Oh,
But
that'd be great.
I don't have time to read, so I'm going to first do your ebook. That would be great. I'll do the
Yeah.
ebook because I can listen
Yep.
to it. And I'm doing other things. But
Yeah, sure.
enjoyed your presentation. I'm sorry you went through that horrible suffering period that you went through. But thanks for sharing
you.
that with
Thanks,
us.
Carol.
And I'm glad you've gone on with your life.
Absolutely.
And found writing and blogging much more enjoyable, and still done your IT stuff, of course.
Yeah.
But that was a big adventure to get involved in all that property stuff.
Yeah.
What happened to the other people in your group that you joined?
I'm just posting that in here. We went through
Sorry, go
so
do that
much
first. Go
together.
ahead,
We
do
went
it.
through so much together that we sort of, and we certainly left on good terms. We had dinner together and we sort of celebrated the end of it. But by the end of it, we had enough of each other. Whenever we looked at each other, we just thought about all the pain we'd been through. So we're still friends, but we don't see so much of them anymore. And that's not personal at all. It's just, I think we were keen to sort of move on from that point, both of us.